Welcome to episode 101 of the Nero Show. In today's episode,
we're being down to Amy's Gran Fondo, the UCI qualifier. We got heaps of chat. We go through expenses of a race weekend away, equipment for the ride, race tactics. I've dropped my aero bottle. We got plenty of sagas that went on.
Full YouTube wrap up and a Cervelo versus a Tavelo. What's a better bike? All right, let's get into it. Jesse Coyle.
Yes.
We did a bike race.
We went and did a bike race.
See, I said race.
It was a
race. I
race.
did, yes. We were down in beautiful Victoria, questionable weather.
Yep.
And we did a... Well, actually, why don't you explain the excitement in events?
So it was Amy's Gran Fondo, which is a qualifier for the UCI Gran Fondo World Championships next year, which is also in Lorne, probably on the same course. So this was a qualifier for Worlds next year, and it happened to be qualifier for the same course. If you're in Australia, you've only got 2 chances to qualify. This event we did, and then Tour of Brisbane in April next year. So we wanted to qualify for next year, and we got to then recon the course and see what it's all about. So we went and did it. We both qualified. Woohoo!
Well done, us.
We will be there next year then. Chris won.
Can we,
by the way,
can we
so
maybe
congratulations.
Thank you. Can we talk a little bit maybe just about our rides?
Oh, I got plenty of chat because I want to pick through expenses.
Yeah, good.
I want to
Okay.
have expenses chat with you, so we'll get there. I want to have equipment chat with you. For me, this was the first proper hard variable terrain race I did on disc brakes on the China bike, so I want to chat through that. But let's just recap our races first so get an idea of what the hell went on, what we did. Then we can get into some of this nitty-gritty, which is going to be a bit more exciting.
Righto, so what were the millennials up to? Were you sort of all on the start line, opening up your TikTok accounts and live streaming? Like, what was going on up there? Because you're all just going to get participation awards at the end, because that's what your entire generation are about. There's no actual real races up there. We're all going to finish together, guys. We're all participating. Good stuff, everyone. So what was happening with the millennials? Give us the rundown, the run through.
Well, there was a bazillion people. So going to the start line, I'm like, I'm pretty good here today. So I didn't want to start at the back, obviously, behind probably 300 people. So I'm there, you get penned into the marshalling area, and I'm there walking my bike through. Excuse me, coming through, squeezing past, a bit of a dickhead just to get through to the front.
Throwing the big 80-kilo rig around, moving forward. Yep. Let me through, coming through, get 2-3 rows back. I'm thinking I'm happy with this. We're going to go off. So the course, for those that haven't seen it, you got like a kilometer of neutral and bang, 20-minute climb. You're flying up there. And so I was like, I don't want to start at the back here have to ride through 300 people. Make my way to the start. We go off. Wouldn't have been more than 10 seconds in, my bottle falls out. And for a split second, I think, I could probably just go without it. Do I turn around? If I turn around, I'm screwed because all these 300 people are going to overtake me. But I've got 100 grams of carbs in that bottle, and I can't get through this on one bottle. And I spin that sucker around. I can't believe you stopped. There's no way I would have stopped. That would have been Chris in 2 hours problem. But fair play to you.
I think I made the right call. That's a full-on bonk city.
So
if I
you
don't
stopped, turned around against the flow of...
Yeah. I had the GoPro on, so we had to show some footage. And there was a drone up, which caught the whole thing. Every angle of me being an idiot dropping a bottle. So I spin it around, almost hit some guy coming at me because I'm in a bit of a fucking freak out. Go back, pick up the bottle. Great. 300 people have ridden past me. Everyone that I've squeezed past in the starting pen have then overtaken me. And then I'm kind of chopping up in the neutral zone to try and catch back to the front. By the time the climb starts, I'm probably only halfway through the group. And so I'm then doing about 500 watts at the start going, I better catch the front of this race now. Otherwise, that's just lights out. Good night, Irene. So... Actually, I thought I did pretty well.
Give me some numbers.
Oh, there was some big numbers here. This is the second best ever 10-minute power I've ever done. 450 watts for the first 10 minutes of the climb. At a good sort of, I'm like, what am I, 83, 84 kegs? So there's some watts going on here.
It's a bigger incline though, so that's, Yeah,
so I'm motoring up this thing twice the speed of these poor people, and I'm then... coming through on your right, left, stay right, coming through. I get about halfway up, and I can see the front group. I'm sleepfrogging all these people. I can see them. but I've done 450 watts for 10 minutes, and I just cannot for the life of me close the last bit. I mean, they're motoring up there. They also went up there super quick. And so get like 2/3 of the way up the climb, and I'm just like, okay, well, this isn't my speed now. They're starting to ride off. The gradient lessens off. It's like about 3% gradient. And they went off. But thankfully, I brought sort of 2 people who got in my wheel for a bit of a free ride. Plus then, after we crested the climb, as it started to trend downhill, a few of the guys from that front group had gotten dropped. So we're then sort of snowball building this group, and I'm kind of like, yeah, let's go. Come on, lads. We can catch. My goal is just to get back onto the front group. So the next 40 minutes, we're just swapping turns. Just before the start of the second climb of the day, which is an hour after the start, I finally catch up to this front group. And we could see them off in the distance for like a good 15 minutes of trying to close them down. And that was, for me, that was success. I caught the front group again, and then it was just survival mode. I managed to hang over the second climb, just sort of sitting on. And then the last, you drop down to descent back to the coast, back to the Great Ocean Road, and then it's 30K flat into the finish anyway. So I knew if I could make it over that second climb with the group, I then finished kind of front group, which, given that I potentially thought my entire day was over at the start, which is kind of funny, that was it. Now, the ironic thing that I'm such a dickhead for, the bottle I dropped was an aero bottle. So I've run the aero bottle, and it's no fault. It's a Cannondale regrip aero bottle. It's actually, it's never fallen out ever. Of course it falls out the one time at the start of the event. It's because I didn't have it in straight. It's actually nothing wrong with the bottle. I was obviously in my pre-race fluster. I didn't check it properly, and it was sitting off center, and it's fallen out. So I finished front group, had nothing really left for the sprint, and I was a bit like, just even happy to be in there. So,
but there was a sprint.
Yeah, our group, it was like we're doing an NRS race at the end there.
Okay.
Like, yeah, full on like attack with like 2K to go, and a group got off the front, and we almost caught them. They're sprinting, we're sprinting. It's like a full-fledged road race.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Oh, well done. Good qualification. Can we get a quick run through of mine?
Mm-hmm. Sorry. Take big wins for the day. Big power. Legs felt good.
Yeah.
Some good photos. Equipment went well, which I'll get onto. I did want to talk about the equipment. First race on disc brakes and China bike. But kind of a stitch up, but I was actually kind of happy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, how did you get on?
Good. Yeah. So, similar to yourself, well, not similar to yourself, I had absolutely no mishaps whatsoever through the entirety of my day. So I'm in the third wave behind you. So you guys are 18 to 34. Then there's another age group, 35 to 40. And then we're the next ones to go. So maybe 4.5 minutes after you. I actually, because we recce'd that the day before, and we were both like, oh, wow, it is literally straight out the door up this hill. So got myself in a similar position to you, right on the front, actually hit the climb first and just decided, right, well, I'm here now. Let's ride. And so I didn't go completely insane. That happened probably 1.5 K up when a few local Melbourne climbers went ballistic up it. And yeah, so I spent 3/4 of that climb just clinging onto their wheel. There was only 3 or 4 of us towards the top. And then there was a little bit, most of the guys in this sort of selection had done it before. And there was this little chat that was like, it felt like, what's the point? In the sense that they seem to be suggesting we're going to get ridden back. What should we do? But I'm in like the full Chris, this is the race winning move breakaway mindset. Let's bloody ride, boys, kind of thing. So that played off to an extent. We started riding, but we start picking up people as you go through, but whatever, that's just the way the age group stuff works. And through that middle section, we're in this massive group now because we're catching more and more people from your age group.
Yeah, you're catching the people we've dropped.
Yes.
And you're like sweeping them up as they come along. They go, oh yeah, hell yeah, free ride to the finish.
Yep, jump on. And there isn't a lot of selection left in this parkour now. So up this sort of last climb, at that point then sort of 20 guys from my own age group had actually come back. They'd done a great job to bridge back across to us. And so I'm looking around at this swelling peloton going, well, I'm definitely going to qualify, but I'm not I don't think now I'm racing for the win because there's this huge amount of people here. back down onto the Great Ocean Road, throw a few attacks down, don't seem to pay off, and into this chaotic finish that, and I need to admit this, Jesse, into this chaotic finish, and we'd caught Dan, my coach, who was in your age group.
Yep.
Literally 10 Ks from the finish line. He's in another group of about 20 people, so chuck them on board. Let's all go. But Dan's like, just follow me. And I just needed a wheel. And this was more, it felt less about winning the sprint. I didn't feel like I was going to win a sprint with 150 people. This was more about just stay safe. And he's really good at that. He's good moving around the bunch. So followed him. And he had good legs, and he got me into the last K, got me into the last 500 meters, and guys were doing lead outs. And I think there's not a lot of road signage when it comes to this finish. And I think a lot of people got their timing wrong. We were kind of almost just playing the long game, positioning ourselves, and I found myself in a position where I could see the finish line, and Dan had kind of held me at the front. And I was like, you know what? I can have a crack here. And I didn't even have to come around anyone. I just came off Dan's wheel and managed to roll down the hill and take the win in the age group. So I was actually the first person across the finish line in that big final bunch. Now, so it was cool. There I am on a podium and all the rest of it. But the reason I kind of hesitate a bit about this is because that finish is not designed for what we just experienced. A 120-man bunch sprint downhill with a cable-marked sort of big speed bump on the finish line was potentially a little bit of a danger. But for me, I was super nervous about some of especially that early climb. I did almost a 20-minute power PB up that first climb just to cling on to the wheels. It was like 4 watts less than an all-time PB for me. And a little bit of that was probably just because of the hesitation we started having in the middle of the climb, thinking, is this worthwhile? So that's kind of the level of how hard that was. So I'm actually pretty happy.
Nice.
Ultimately.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good presentation too. I mean, not just a podium. There's a stage and a full-on presentation at lunchtime, and then a podium on the stage, full champagne sprays. Yep. It's a full-fledged race.
Yep.
I talked this event up and these Gran Fondo things up last week and said that don't worry about racing. This stuff's cool. I just don't quite understand what's going on with these courses. Can I have a bit of a rant about these Gran Fondo courses? Maybe I have lost my marbles. I always thought Gran Fondos were about selections being made, hilly, hard courses. You do everything you can to drop everyone else. You try and make the fastest group you can, and then you roll in, and you know, whether you're in a group of 5, you're on the same time. That's your front group. You're not splitting hairs between who specifically crossed the line first in what I thought was a classic Gran Fondo. But a lot of these UCI Gran Fondo events are coming up, and they're not selective. You had Denmark this year, which was the World Championships, that had 1 or 2 minute climbs max, and then you're rolling in for a sprint. Even this event this Amy's Gran Fondo was good. You had a climb at the start, which split it up, which was nice, but maximum gradient's only sort of about 5%. Most of it was between 3 and 4%. And then even in my age group, the front group, there were still 20 guys left coming in at the end. And it's treated, because there's such an awesome podium and prize presentation and cash prize money, guys are sprinting it out like it's a road race. I always thought was against what a Gran Fondo is. I mean, who's prepared to go and sprint it out like you're doing a sprint stage at the Tour de France?
A Gran Fondo is a type of long-distance road cycling ride organised in Italy in 1970 and roughly translates in English as big ride. Italian Gran Fondos are officially defined and certified by the Italian Cycling Federation as a bicycle event at least 120 kilometres long and are individually time-chipped start to finish. Races with prizes for the fastest riders in each category. The starts are done en masse, and the format allows for riders of every level to participate, much like a marathon, where most participants are competing against the clock instead of participants. traditionally a large meal is served to the participants at the event of the at the
So
conclusion.
but that's about time. It's a timed segment. You're timing chips. It's about the fastest. If you're coming across on the same time, you're the same speed. And so if the courses aren't selective enough to be able to determine who these podiums are, I just find it a bit weird. Now, for a couple of reasons. Firstly, if we just throw out maybe my outdated idea of what a Gran Fondo is, the courses need to be safe to sprint on. Like this course only had the last marking was 1 kilometer to go. There was no 500, 200, 150. So you didn't really know how far out you were. And at the finish line, there's no finish camera. What if this was a bee's dick between two people? You wouldn't be able to split them. Or you'd be relying on the timing chip, which isn't accurate enough. And there's these 2 gigantic bumper plates with like cables and stuff across right at the finish line, which if you're like doing a bike throw, if you were intending to sprint like a road race, it's extremely dangerous. And then you're getting penned in at the end, getting your participation medal. So if we're saying that we're just expecting you to sprint, the finishes need to be set up properly. But I think that's crap anyway, because people are lining up to these things to do a Gran Fondo, not expecting to have to sprint it out. I think they need to have more selective parkour at the finish. And so in Lawn, we were staying walking distance from town, but up a hill. Sort of, it's on an escarpment. So we were staying up probably an 800-meter climb at 10% gradient. Like they could fix this whole thing by just finishing up there. So you come into town, you turn the corner. If you're in your front group, just in your age group, great. Strongest man wins at the end. Who's got legs left? Who's really the fittest? Who's going to get the best time? You'll have time gaps there. Go for gold. And it also means you're less likely to get interference between, in your group, for example, you and the people that you've caught from other age groups, because when it's an uphill finish, it's just the strongest can go up there. It's not as much sort of drafting tactics and things like that. So I think just having a harder finish would help split these things up.
I've been on record saying that there's a certain way you ride a Fondo. I think I did a video about how to ride a Fondo 5-6 years ago. And it's very much just that. It's like you ride the hills really hard, and if ultimately it's come to a point that you're in a group towards the end of these Fondo style events, that you neutralize it. Because a lot of these events, not necessarily ones with podiums, but I will categorize them similarly for this discussion. You know, they can finish in like parks with kids with baskets on their bikes, you know, doing the family version. And so you neutralize it. But the minute you throw UCI medals around, then the horse is bolted. It's all bets are off. It's aero helmets. It's bike throws. We are doing a fucking bike race. All right. And that was I had this chat to you the day before, because you asked me like, what's your mindset for this? I just said, I'm doing a bike race. I'm full Sookie Chris bike race. No talking to me. I do think the solution then for this particular scenario is just simply an extra climb, an extra little bit of selection somewhere right at the end to alleviate that stress on the matter.
Mm-hmm. I think as well, it's obviously a big issue if you're racing for the podium in your age group. Okay. But I've, for years and years and years, been doing race. I'm a coach people that do these things. I can tell you someone's race recap before I even hear it. I've heard these things a million times over. And I know that this is still an issue for the people that are finishing 15th and lower, even just within their group, because you don't get the opportunity to, if there's no selection point more than 30 kilometers from the finish, you don't get that opportunity to really test your legs. You go, okay, the first climb was hard. I made my group. I was quite happy with the group I was in. We rolled some turns. I held on up the second climb. Oh, and then it's just the most anticlimactic finish because it's, oh, well, then we rolled along the coast and we, you know, some guy sprinted and I was just sort of in the group. Like, that's just not a good way to finish a Gran Fondo. What would be good is if you had even a short climb at the end to be able to say, I had really good legs, my nutrition was on, and I was able to drop the rest of my group and finish front of my group at the end, and not have to do that in some dodgy, dangerous sprint, which I will say a lot of the people training for these events They don't know how to sprint. They don't road race. They're going to a Gran Fondo to do a Gran Fondo. So they wouldn't even sprint. They're like, what do you mean sprint? Like bar to bar. It's just totally foreign to a lot of these people that are purposely going to a Gran Fondo. And so, or they got to the end and they go, oh, kilometer to go, there was this climb and my legs were totally cooked and I finished last in my group and I really want to come back and do better next year. Like that is the crux point. What happened in the last 5 kilometers with you racing in your group, even if that's to get between 25th and 40th, that's everything. And if it rolls along the coast home, you don't get that. And so I would really love to see a course change. But I think it needs to come from the UCI because the UCI is just fucking handing out stamps at this stage. I mean, this has got the distance and it does have climbing. So I'm not like saying the Amy's one is like a disaster. But the one like Denmark, how is that a Gran Fondo? There's like max 2-minute climbs. Surely
it feels like this UCI element to it is changing. It's changing the type of person that's turning up, and it's therefore changing it's also changing what's on the line, because suddenly it does feel like the rewards have gone up. I mean, this event's been going for decades, but suddenly the rewards have been bumped up because of this UCI stamp and this jersey that, you know, a different type of person's turning up. And that's not just in Australia. So, I asked Ronan McLaughlin about, because they had, I think it was the first Gran Fondo Island, which was in County Sligo this year. And again, a kind of not particularly selective 120k course with around 1,000 meters of climbing. I've done some of those roads. It's lumpy, but it's not going to split up a strong, 200-man age group that much. You're going to come to a finish line, but people are turning up. So they had big numbers at that one event in the US. I think they had 12,000 people turn up to that Jacksonville UCI Gran Fondo. Like the fact that there's only one of these in the US, I don't particularly
that might be a story for another day. That's criminal. How in the whole of the US there's one UCI qualifier? Something's going on there.
Yeah.
Chiaha Challenge.
But ultimately, can you have participation and elite performance in the same race?
Yeah, you get dropped and then you're racing from your group. If the courses aren't selective enough and there's not much opportunity for things to whittle out in the last quarter of the race, I'm just trying to make a point that I just don't understand why that's a Gran Fondo. That's just a ride or a road race. The whole point of doing a Gran Fondo is because it's very selective. And
it's a big ride.
Terrain naturally. Actually, but the distance I don't mind. Like 120 kilometers is a nice distance for most people that have jobs to train for. It's not like training for some 7-hour epic thing with like peaks, which is just a whole nother is just too much for a lot of people. So the distance I like, it just needs to be something in there that allows people to get a fairer spread of results at the end. That's just the point I want to make. And it doesn't appear like the UCI have any criteria at all on the terrain. It's just, is it more than 120 kilometers? Oh, actually, not even 120. No, it would be 120 because that one in Ireland was 135. Looks like, is it more than 120 kilometers? Do you start in your age groups? Bang, you're a Gran Fondo. And I feel like that's a pretty big definition change around what everyone thought a Gran Fondo was.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I'm not sitting here calling for Peaks Challenge to be Australia's UCI qualifier. I think that's a terrible idea. I mean, Peaks is its own like incredible achievement. You're not going to get, or you shouldn't get 4,000 people wanting to do that every year. It's so hard. And it's a different entity. But because I do think that 3-4 hour window is a great window for an event like this. It's a really good effort level that is achievable for a lot of people. So look, obviously, and I'm well aware, Jesse, that this is our opinion based on what we experienced and what our goals were going into this. So 4,000 people, a lot of other people with different goals. So I I did reach out to a few people.
This is my job, by the way.
I know.
I literally.
Yes,
people are going to say
aware.
that. I chat with people literally every day.
Okay, well, me
race
then.
recapping this stuff.
I'm giving my feedback on what I experienced. All right. So one particular lady who this was her. She's just started getting into racing. She did that Kendineville handicap.
Okay.
So she sort of started dipping her toe in it. She did the Mudgee Classic, which is very much a Fondo type thing. So I asked her a similar sort of question, like how did you feel the whole event played out from a race perspective? And her sort of thing was, in terms of the racer versus recreational point, it didn't really bother her. I felt like the two cultures running in parallel didn't really feel weird. The recreational group started behind the age group people, and I'm sure that people overlapped on the course, but she didn't really notice, or it didn't really have any impact into her performance throughout the day. She reckoned that the event organisers very much prioritised the fact that it was accessible. So for everyone, essentially. I can't speak from too much experience because this is the first Fondo I've raced. But she liked the course, that it wasn't too technical.
Mm-hmm.
You could bomb down descents.
Mm-hmm.
The weather wasn't ideal, but that's not particularly neither here nor there. The event village wasn't as big as she thought it would be, which is kind of interesting. I will say this, and I'm not going to put words in her mouth, but she very much said that, like, that first 20-minute climb, that was it. That was the selection point. From then on in, you are in your group. And, she enjoyed the rest of the ride, but it very much sounded like, from then on was just you're doing your thing. I would come at it from the perspective of, well, it could have been more after that. She potentially just doesn't know that because she hasn't experienced many different types of races like this. Can I have a quick rant though? Am I allowed to have this rant?
Yeah, let's go.
While we're here. I flagged this last week and it played out exactly like this, that for the age group people, what ends up happening is you just end up catching all the other groups, or you get caught by people behind, and the dynamic, the racing dynamic just disappears, completely disappears, because you have people like from your age group in my group now. They're riding really fast on them. They're not trying to break away. They're just trying to ride really fast because they're in a position now to stay in front of more people from your age group. Mm-hmm. So they're just riding really fast. So for the last 40 Ks, I'm there racing the other dozen people in my age group. It's like we're neutralized now.
Because you've been swallowed, and you've swallowed up all these other people that are then mixing in your group.
Yep.
You know what fixes that?
Something
selective at the end. Because that allows you to go, all right, well, I'm still fresh. I'm going to whack it here. Who's going to follow? Yes. But I mean, that's why it's a bit weird when you.
And look, I know when we're talking about this, I know there are heaps of like vested interests when it comes to running these events. I'm well aware of that. Like we're talking about changing courses and bits like that. And it's not just it's easier said than done. You got police, traffic management. And look, we'll get to the different expectations of different riders. And as I said, I was sort of bringing my expectations coming into this. But I just do feel like there's this underlying thing that I get this sense of, that when the UCI stamped this, it kind of changes the type of person that turns up. And I do think that it changes the ambitions of everyone.
I don't understand why they can't start us all together. Right. Hear me out. Because you've got this awkward thing where you're age categorizing it up, but like the top riders in each age category are just as probably as strong as you. Wouldn't have gotten dropped from my age category's climbing speed. You would have been up there from the front group. So it just creates this. Again, this is probably more of an issue. Actually, it's not more of an issue just for the people at the front of each age group, because you'd be pretty frustrated if you were mid-pack in my age group and you drop someone on the climb, you thought you'd done a really good job, and you turn around and fucking Chris Miller's on the front, and he's dragging 10 of the blokes you just worked to drop with him, with you, sitting in the wheel, closing everything back down. Like, that's frustrating. Like, that could be I guarantee that's the difference between someone qualifying. That exact situation would have changed up whether someone qualified or not qualified, because that then is a gigantic bunch of people who are all sprinting to try and make the top 25%, and they're having to sprint it to get across the line first. And so just to stop that happening, they should just truly make it mass start, like most of the other Gran Fondos we do. Now, it would be an absolute shit show because there's so many people. So you'd have to have some sort of seeding or criteria or even self-selection like you do on Zwift. So you can try and make sure that the faster riders are at the front, and then it's kind of spread back from there, so you're not having this like dangerous neutral section. But I do think that would be a better race. And then you still give your results in your age group. It's just that you've all gone off at the same time. I mean, there's the category selection on Zwift, even though it's purely self-selected with the watts per kilo guide. Yeah, you always get some sandbagger, but generally it works. Like when you put a self-selection in, 95% of the people follow it, and then the extra outside of that margin are kind of irrelevant anyway. And so I reckon I think it could be possible.
I don't think it's difficult at all. I mean, most governing bodies have some sort of handicap or categorized system for at least riders that have a racing license. And beyond that, then you can potentially have your previous year's results rank you as at a certain level of what time you're aiming for, which puts you in a certain starting pen. Yes, there'll be a certain percentage of people that, one, don't have racing licenses or have any kind of categorized handicap, and two, have never done the race before. But I think that can't be more than 25% of the starting thing, and we can.
But then you could have like an average speed. Yep. What do you think?
Yep.
You know, I'm probably not going to average 40 kilometers an hour if my threshold's 215 watts.
Yep.
So you could sanity, self-select.
Yep. I just think that clears up the issue of the different skill sets coming together, and yes, you are potentially then going to have situations where, I don't know, Jesse Coyle and Chris Miller get off the front and both of them ride full gas now because they've realized that they're in separate age groups and can both win. But that's used to that. That happens a lot in all kinds of stuff.
Yep.
No, I don't mind that solution, actually.
I think it'd be nicer. Yep. I'd like that.
Okay, time for a quick word from today's show partner, Pillar Performance. Traditional nutrition products like hydration, carbohydrates, and sugar water will take you through to the finish line, whereas Pillar's mission is to get you to the start line in the best condition, over and over.
In this episode, Pillar wants to bring awareness to the benefits that magnesium supplementation can have for you as a cyclist, particularly as it relates to sleep and recovery. Do you have trouble getting to sleep each night? Or do you suffer from reduced sleep quality, particularly after your biggest training days? If so, magnesium supplementation can help improve all areas of your sleep by regulating melatonin production and reducing cramps that interrupt your sleep quality. Pillar's triple magnesium is a 300 milligram blend of absorbable forms of magnesium that tastes great, and it's also informed sport batch tested to be free from banned ingredients.
If you would like to try Pillar today, get 15% off by using code Nero at pillarperformance.shop, or for our North American listeners, head to thefeed.com/pillar and enter code Nero for 15% off. Big thanks to Pillar Performance for supporting today's episode. All right, so that's the course, the ride, the race itself. What about costs involved in the?
That's the $1 million question. That's the $2,000 question. Is a race weekend away worth it? Let's go through, break down some of the expenses, what it costs, and go through from there. Now, we shared some expenses because we traveled together, but let's go through it. So, my expenses. Entry fee for this was 265 Aussie dollars. That's the kind of the going rate. That's what it costs. Fully closed roads. We didn't obviously stop at any of the feed zones, but there's feed zones there. Timing chip.
You got the early bird entry fee by the sounds.
I think I got the early bird entry fee. So that's what that costs to do a fully closed road event in Australia. That's fair. Flights to get there, given that we're going to Victoria to drive. It's probably a 11-hour drive or something like that. So it's just too far. Flights return $360. Car hire to get from Melbourne Airport to Lorne, which is about a 2-hour drive. For the 2 days, $205. The Airbnb booking for the accommodation in town, killed it. Walking distance from the start line, absolute golden booking. It was because most of the places are 2-night minimum, so that was $730. Miscellaneous, so you got fuel, cost of the bike box, bike service when I got there because the brakes had decided to lose tension as they do. $150. We're looking at 1,710 Australian dollars for the major costs for that weekend, which is about $1,200 US.
Can I just add parking at the airport, $100, which is, believe it or not, cheaper than getting a cab there and back for me.
Mm-hmm.
Goes another little bit. Specific nutrition. I mean, we're pretty lucky that we do the sugar water stuff, but yeah, I still got some Morton gels and bits and pieces. So there's sort of $30, and I don't tend to do that if I'm not doing a race.
Mm-hmm.
And I will throw this one into the mix. $30 for photos.
How vain.
I thought I'd be getting a freebie. Normally, a lot of these events, you get a freebie.
Yep.
No freebie.
I know the Barrel Classic, they give you a code, so one of the photos on the website you can get for free.
Same with Peaks. You get one.
Okay.
I think that's a little kick in the guts, that one, for me. You want to get the narcissistic post up.
Yep.
Come on.
Yep.
So, the reason I sort of mentioned that is that gets us up near the 2, essentially, 2K.
Yep.
Which, most triathletes will look at and go, oh, no worries. It's just an entry fee, mostly. But, it's certainly, it's not as if we spent a long time away or anything. And we're not eating out.
Mm-hmm.
There's no pub dinners in there either.
This is rice and honey.
It's rice and honey back at home. So, I mean, that's the cost. Do you want to just do general positives and negatives from the weekend? Or do you want to say, is there a chat around how to make that cheaper? I don't think there is, personally.
I don't think you can make that. There's no really any way, unless you camped, to save on the Airbnb cost. There's no way to make that cheaper.
Ultimately, it comes down to the accommodation. Is like, how roughing it are you willing to do it? And I'm not. So
yes.
Yeah.
Now,
been there, done that.
Let's go. I think it's worth it. I mean, it is a lot of money. It's a shame that it's a lot of money, but I think it's worth it. So, positives. Well, there's nothing else big to train for. That gave me focus and something to train for the last 3 months. And I love training. That's the most rewarding part for me. So if I didn't have this, I'd just be aimlessly wandering around Centennial Park wondering what the hell I'm doing. So just for that simple fact alone, it's been worth it. Even though the ride was a stitch up dropping my aero bottle. I still don't care. So that was worth it. Now, and then the actual just event, racing on closed roads is just sick. Riding on the wrong side of the road is just awesome. So that is just worth it in and of itself. The feeling of it being a proper road race, like I dropped on the climb, I caught a few guys. I hope I turned the GoPro on. We're rolling turns at 60k an hour. Like, it's just awesome to get that road race feeling back again and just go way faster than you ever would in a training ride. It's just sick. So that adrenaline rush of it all, I really like too. So, that's enough. That's my enough positives for me to say, yep, it's worth it.
Yeah, I'm the same. Obviously, this is what I live for, really. I mean, we're nitpicking about the specifics of the event just because I want it to be better, but ultimately this is what I live for. And there's like you mentioned at the buzz of it, for me, it's that putting aero booties on. Mm-hmm. It's the fuck it, I'm going all in today. And that's the equipment side, but also the physical side. Like, you know, there are just moments in an event like this that you just goes that bit deeper, or you're not so much in this race, but like there's that kind of cutthroat dog eat dog stuff that you can get in a road race. It's just like that's what you get for. That's what you live for. That moment. So you can't do that any other way than to be right in amongst the mix of it. And I will say this, obviously, this isn't for everyone, but we're in the unique position that it's just so cool meeting everyone who watches the show. And so I cannot say that's not probably the highlight for me, is just standing there and having people come up saying we watch the show and we love it and keep it up. So yeah, obviously I'd love to mention that. Can I just mention some ball aches? Just because I'm that guy.
Go for it.
Right. Okay. Obviously packing a bike.
Pain in the ass. I mean, you've got a proper bike bag. I've got a cardboard box.
I can't believe you packed that. I just looked at that and went, I would just go home. Yeah. I mean, fair play to you. But also the stress of traveling with the bike.
I live in an apartment. There's nowhere to put a bike bag to use once a year.
There is a bike shop that rents them out.
Oh, okay. I should look into that.
You should look into that. There is just a bit of the stress of traveling with your bike. I mean, it is. I packed
the unzip of, please, the seat stays. Come on, seat stays. They're not cracked.
Yes, because it's happened once. Looks 695 Aero Light. Snapped.
Oh.
Yeah, so the stress of traveling with the bike is obviously a big one. Yeah, time away from the family. And look, this is a chat for another day, but I'm still very much on the side of get out, get home, do it with a mate or solo, as opposed to try and drag the family around.
Oh, yeah.
We've done that once or twice. Just no. For me, no.
It also costs a lot more.
Costs a lot more.
More ACOM, yep.
And I would argue the kids kind of hate it, but they're not everyone's cup of tea. Risk of bike damage, I said that.
We also stayed walking distance from the start line. Like, imagine if we had to pack the car and drive for half an hour from the next town over. Add that into the whole logistics of the whole thing. I mean, you're starting to get into, don't know if I can be bothered territory.
Other ball aches, there's the bits and pieces that you forget. So, like, on the Friday, I realised I didn't have the things that you put in the disc brake calipers to travel with. So I had to go to Caish to get those. They're actually mine, which I'd left there. But there's just shitty little things like that you kind of forget about that you have to do before you travel with them. While we are talking about disc brakes traveling, though, can I just mention this one? Because both of us have this issue. So we pack the bikes up. We build the bikes when we get to Lawn. We roll down the hill, down this steep berg, and you're like, I've got no brakes.
I got a front brake. The rear brake's gone walkabout.
Yeah. And I had what I would describe as kind of spongy brakes. And that's happened to me a few times traveling now with disc brakes, is that you just seem to lose, I don't know.
The fluid just disappears. So how is that possible?
Well, I did reach out to Australia's most controversial bike mechanic, and I asked him, what's the friggin' story with these? And he did say that sometimes when the bike is pressurized, it can bring a tiny amount of air right to the top of the master cylinder. All the air wants to escape the shifter because it wants to be the same pressure it is when it's outside. So it naturally goes to the top. So it essentially doesn't need to be re-bled, but they need to basically top it up.
Need a top up.
With a bit of
how convenient.
fluid.
Okay.
A little stitch up, I noticed.
Yep.
So,
right.
yeah, so what did you...
Well, I was off down to the event village, send it into the mechanic there for a top up. Somehow my derailleur had gone out of whack, so they tuned that up too. Thankfully, they got it sorted. But, add that into your Saturday afternoon logistics, and then what are we doing for dinner? What food are we getting? Like, there's just a lot of shit going on. There's no way around. That just is what it is. I do think flying adds a lot of Like if you just pack the car and you just chuck crap in there, because you can overpack when you're driving. It's just too far to drive and too much time. So I do think the flying is positive and negative there. If that was any closer, I'd consider just driving just for convenience.
I will say that little digital like pressure tire thing that you have, I don't have one yet. That's an essential trip, because I never would fly with a foot pump or any of those sort of things. And you get to the venue and you're like, oh, I got to find a shop, and then you got to find a pump and all that kind of stuff. But your little digital one, I don't know what brand it was, but that's a perfect little. It's a tiny bit of a less of an ball ache to have that available.
It is. Yeah. You also get a bit out of practice here. I was kind of packing. I'm like, what do I need again? I haven't been away. What do I pack? Now I could have bring a little bit of hydraulic fluid, practice the top up when you get there. Bring a chain tool. I didn't bring a chain quick release tool, which I probably would have wanted as well. Little things like that I need to you kind of get good at when you're traveling a bit more.
And when you're traveling for an event where the weather is as questionable as this one was, like when I traveled to Peaks, I basically just took my Nero suit. I'm like, I don't need anything else.
Yep.
Whereas this, I think I brought my entire wardrobe. So
yeah.
I had a bag, but I just wore the same human clothes for the whole weekend, but my bag was just Lycra.
Yep.
So, which is a whole other chat, because I'm a bit bigger than I used to be, because it's old team gear.
Yeah.
It's
ooh.
You saw that rain jacket on me. Let's just say it's aero now.
Can we get onto some gear chat?
Yeah, let's do it.
So first proper ride, long race on the China bike. Passed with flying colours, really. And there were sections after the climb on the sort of trending downhill section where they've done one of the jobs where instead of fixing the road, you just pour more tarmac into every pothole. Yeah. And then another one comes up and you patch it again. And so it's like a quilt work of potholes and crap on, for some reason, what seemed to be the fastest section. So there were points there where I was like, if something's going to snap, like it's going to snap now. Like I'm hauling at 80 kilos at 70k an hour. And thankfully nothing slipped. Seat post didn't slip. Saddle didn't slip. Bars didn't snap.
It was wet there too as well.
It was wet. I was happy that I was coming along the Great Ocean Road on the way home and the bike was totally fine. Pretty windy, kind of sort of really fast but slightly gusty sections along the top. And I was thankful to have the shallower front, 50 mil front wheel of the CRW. So that handled the crosswinds quite well. I mean, the disc brakes, as I've said before, and everyone knows, but I'll say it again, just the consistency of the braking in the wet was consistent 100%, which was really nice. And the wider tires. I mean, I can't imagine now doing that on 28.5 front, 28 rear at 80 psi. I mean, it was just smooth. It was just super. Like it was amazing.
I couldn't believe, because it was probably this time last year that you did the Barrel Classic on the TCR. Probably that setup, potentially.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at your bike now, the Kool-Aid has just been infused. Like you're bathing in it now. Like that rear wheel is hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
It's a 32.
I think it's 33.5 measured.
Yeah.
It's wider than a cyclocross tire.
But which does bring me to the point that I want to discuss here, which is the wheels on your bike. Because we sat there, the two of us, comparing our two bikes, and looking at the wheels.
Yep.
And it was interesting to note the shape of your CRW wheel. It was interesting to note the lack of shape in your CRW wheels in comparison to my package, the reserves, which have, I would describe as almost like an hourglass type curve to the way they shape.
Mm-hmm. They come in at the bead a bit more.
Yeah, so
it's not flush.
They go out and then back in for the tire.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. Like it almost looks like an S when you have the tire on there.
Mm-hmm.
In comparison to the CRWs, which the tire then looks quite like round. I know that sounds stupid. You know, it looks very like bulbous almost on the CRWs. Would you agree or not?
I would say the transition between the tire and the rim is like it's smoother on the CRWs. There's a defined widest point on those rims, which is just back from the bead. Like it literally comes out. Whereas the CRW is just like smooth, and then you go into the tire. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know
Yes, I have no actual assessment of that other than there's a difference. It's not like
that's all I was saying.
It's not the same. It's not. It's just like it's a 60 mil deep rim.
Yeah.
No, yes, there's a difference.
There's a difference there. Yeah. Yep. No, that's all I wanted to highlight.
The gearing thing was really interesting with a 56 tooth, being able to pedal on when it's 60 plus, but not steep enough where I would aero tuck.
Mm.
But I was still able to pedal. Felt like a massive advantage, and I honestly think you could go bigger in the front because you've got a gigantic 34 tooth cassette back there, which looks ridiculous on a road setup. Like I was looking at that, I was like, "Whoa, that thing is huge."
Yeah, but
I reckon you could go bigger.
Yeah, you can, but find me a friggin' chain ring.
Yes, the Shimano chain. Yeah, you can't. It's hard. It was quite an. I'm still. What's the right word? Coming to terms with what the bigger cassettes are opening up at the front end. Like I'm running a 56, but it still gets this reaction from me like, well, you must be super strong. You've got a 56. It's not like that anymore. The cassettes are so big. Like your smallest gear could be a 42, 34. It's a pretty easy gear. Like it's interesting to see how that's progressed too. Yeah.
Oh no, I agree with you. I mean, like that. I noticed that when I rode with you. I think I might have even mentioned this one of these weeks that when we did that ride up north, and you start to get a little rhythm on when you get into that deep into the 56 tooth cassette, and I'm not in your draft. I can't. I am gone. Like you really will just ride away, and it's a really nice advantage to have. There's no two ways about it.
Especially as a heavier rider.
Yeah. And that's not necessarily just because you've got that extra gear. It's also just the actual chain line that you're managing to run.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. I don't know. Is there a 55 tooth? Is that a thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's all increments.
Okay.
All the ways you go. I mean, I don't know. I don't think in Shimano.
No. But see, and that's yeah, it's just because that Shimano chain ring, it's just the shift is so nice.
Yes, it is.
It really is.
Yeah, it would shit you going to some sort of aftermarket chain rings. They're never as good. Although my chain didn't come off, thankfully, but I didn't. I did go out of the big ring once on the second climb. Saddle's still going well.
Oh, this
that
is
AliExpress
the Express
saddle. Fucking good. Like it's comfortable. I'm not just using it out of spite for not taking it off. It's comfortable. I did that ride with no saddle pain. And I'm in a really aggressive position. Like if I was going to get a numb knob, it would have happened.
On that one.
Especially with how low I am at the front. So it's good. It's going good.
Come through in flying colours, the Tavelo. You didn't have any, so there was no regrets? You didn't look around at another rig and went, oh, what could have been?
The only bikes I look at where I go, oh, that could be good, is the faster bikes with more material. Now, they're obviously definitely heavier. But the weight doesn't matter for me. And so I like the feeling of the lighter bike, but I would happily ride like your bike in my size, and it probably would weigh 7.8. But it wouldn't really matter. They're the only bikes where I go, oh, like there would be situations where I'd be faster on that.
The 4 guys in my age group who were at the top of the climb, there were 2 S5s, a Scott foil, and I can't remember what the fourth bike was. But anyway, my point being that they were, 7.5 kilo minimum aero bikes most of the way. I will say, and we did flag this, that I saw my yearly supply of S-Works while I was down in Melbourne. It's definitely it's a very well supported brand and bike in Melbourne. There's no two ways about it. Far superior to what we see here. And I did see a couple of those Red Bull colorways.
Mm-hmm.
Shout to the boys in my starting wave who was showing theirs off to me. Yeah, very, very nice. Could definitely get around that.
Nice.
No two ways about it. Though did I say this to you while we were there? It surprises me every time when I look at an SL8, that bottom bracket, how round it is.
Mm.
I'm just so used to seeing not like even like the TCR is more chunky than what that S-Works SL8 bottom bracket is. It almost looks like a custom steel frame, that really circular, like minimalist design. It's just so different to what you could freaking put a liter of water down in my bottom bracket.
Yep.
Yeah.
We did the classic, like, milling around the accommodation before, just literally kicking the tires, going, just side by side, the Tavelo and the Cervelo.
Oh, yeah, I never noticed that.
What a stupid name.
Yeah, I know.
I've just told, like, it's just, I don't understand if you're trying to start a bike brand that just needs to stand on its own 2 feet and you back your product, why would you half rip off another name? Like, call it like,
as a general rule, the Chinese names are terrible. It's just AI generated. Name me bike brand, please. Yeah, Tavelo.
Cervelo.
Right.
Anyway, the Tavelo and the Cervelo price.
We were kicking the tires.
Well, because you're looking, going, it looks so. And I'm looking at yours. You're going, well, what's the price? What are we looking at price difference here? Can we compare prices?
Yeah, worth every penny, mate. Every penny. All right, so Cervelo S5.
Yep.
I'm going to talk. I'm going to talk. Sound like my 9-year-old. I'm going to use Australian dollars, if that's okay with you.
Mm-hmm.
So currently, you're looking for a Dura Ace spec of a Cervelo S5 with these reserve wheels, coming with Vittoria Corsa tires, around 17,000 US Australian dollars.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to go to match my spec. You're going to need. It sounds like I'm nitpicking, but it's important. You're going to need the better tires. You're going to want GP5000s in the width you want, which aren't going to come with it. So they're $100 each. So put on $200. It's not going to come with the right size chain rings. So you'd have to factor in the price of a 5440, which I don't know how much. What's the Shimano chain rings cost? A 5440 combo.
Well, I mean, you've got to know someone who knows someone. That's the way that works.
Who can sneak them out the back door of the factory?
Yeah.
Big train rings, $200. Sorry, the 54 tooth, 9200 on cache is $314, and the 5440, the 40's, $50. So add on $365 to that. I think everything else is about.
Yeah, well, we can kind of skip over the fact I've got OSPWs and
skip over that because I don't
SRM, which.
Yeah.
We're of a previous bike build, but whatever. It's just it's the full Masters privateer spec.
So what was the price? You said 17,000.
17,500 Australian dollars.
So it's 18,000 by the time you change the tires and put your bigger chain rings on. 18K.
Yeah.
Mine with Ultegra Di2, 8,865. So less than half the price.
With the wheels.
With the wheels. That's full package. But
how fast is it at 0 degrees York?
Hold on. You got to guess that one. No idea. But there may be import duties on the frame. If you're unlucky, depending on what they declare the price as, you might have to pay an extra 10% on the frame, and maybe the wheels. You might have to. So maybe add on. What's that? 200 and for the wheels, probably another 200. Might be 9.5, maybe once you pay duties. So half the cost. Let's say half price.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because it's the perfect It's the perfect we're doing the same thing. We want the same thing out of our bikes. And yet I have the full mainstream, ticked and approved, Grand Tour winning, all this, everything, the bike that the Grand Tour winners use. You have ridden by nobody, but saving a buttload of cash, doing your own testing, bloody fast. Do you have any regrets? Is there any part of you that thinks you're missing, not necessarily performance, but just something from the mainstream brand? Now, whether it's worth an extra $10,000,
yep.
That's not for us to talk about. But is there something?
Absolutely nothing. Me on the start line, there's not a single thing I'm going, oh, that's not great. Actually, beside the fact that I cannot get the shifting with those chain rings to work with 12 speed.
Yeah, but that could...
But maybe I solve that. Or maybe I try some other chain rings. Yeah. No. But it won't, until, God heaven forbid, there's some kind of warranty issue or something breaks, and then it's email Panda Podium or email Tavelo and see what the hell happens. And then it's shipping backs and forths. But no,
so it's still, for you, it's all still, the shortcomings would all still be practical rather than emotional.
Well, actually, put the bikes side by side. Now, yours is deeper tubes, and so there's always that sort of at speed thing, but my bike's way lighter.
Wait, irrelevant. It is. I'm sorry, I'm not going down this road again.
It's not just that I don't feel I'm losing anything. There's definitely situations, like if I was doing a hot dog crit and had to keep accelerating back up to speed, I wouldn't want to be lugging that dog around. Like, mine's lighter.
You've lost it.
Like, it's better.
There was hope for you for a while, but you've fallen back into this rim brake. Oh, look how light and snappy my bike is. Trap. No, that's fine. I mean, I'll be honest. I rode a quote unquote cheap Chinese frame for 3 years and enjoyed it for a couple of years, but at the back end of it, I felt like, and it wasn't necessarily...
No, you can't do that.
Why can't I?
You rode one Chinese frame that was rim brake.
3?
What?
I rode 3 of their frames.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you rode one which was vaporware that never existed.
My thing is not, I'm not going to talk about performance. I'm merely talking about, I wanted to be just back part of the herd. Safety in the herd.
Right.
I just wanted to sheep around. Same as the rest of you, and we're all just following the leader.
But I think, which is, that's fair, but there's always, but you're kind of like, but what do you really think of it? Like, you're like digging as if I'm like, I'm just, one day I'm going to flip and just go, I just want an SLA.
It's coming.
I just want an S-Works.
It's 100% coming. I know it is. It's got to be coming. There's got to be, I think there will be. And the problem, it's all in the layup, mate.
No, because where's it going to be? It can't be in weight. My bike's lighter than like basically any mainstream bike besides an SL8.
Yeah. Well.
So it's not in weight. Okay. But you don't think weight's irrelevant anyway?
Not in that ballpark, no.
Drag. Okay.
I mean, if my bike was 8.5 kilos, then yes.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe it's in the ride feel.
Yeah, pedal efficiency.
Maybe it's aerodynamics. I mean, it could be aerodynamics, but I've seen their frame testing and that Tavelo did, and it's
internals. Yeah, the internals share it to the public, or it's just.
Well, they said not to. Can I share it? Oh, I don't know. They tested it against an SL7. It was frame only. It was faster. So
they put you on a trainer somewhere, and
no, this was actually there was actual testing. It doesn't. I can see aero anyway. So,
sure.
But no. But you're right. Like that is the one thing, but that's not necessarily because it's a China bike. It's because it's not an out-and-out aero bike, and I'm a rider that would suit that. So I've kind of got this nice lighter weight do-it-all package, but I'm not really the rider that would go for that. So I'm kind of on a bike that you could argue, doesn't suit me.
Yes, 100%. I mean, the last thing I want to do is see you on an S5 with big, deep wheels. That is the last thing I want to see. I have no interest in following that down a hill at 0 degree yaw. So, yeah, long live the lightweight do-it-all Tavelo for you, as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm. So that's where I would, if I, actually now I could get it. Now I got all the parts. Frame swap's not that hard.
Mm-hmm.
If I was going to change to a different frame, it would be for a big fully aero one. Like, I'm not going to swap for another do-it-all.
Yeah.
But I can't really be bothered. I
could see, I've said it before, but I could see on a cube or something. I don't know the lifespan of that bike, but yeah, I agree. And even just selfishly, I would really like to get your opinion on that from actually, no, there's no real difference. Yeah, or something. We'll see.
Mm-hmm. I don't want to just gloss over the pricing, though. Like, it's $10,000 cheaper. Like, given that we've already got the bikes, it's quite easy to go, yeah, it's cheaper. But, like, that's now I'm always been kind of strong, so I wouldn't be standing on the start line going, oh, I'm on a slower bike. But, like, if that was me, like, you would be pretty happy. Like, I do feel like I see stand on the start line, there's someone on SL8 with Rovals. I got that pretty much covered. Maybe I'm delusional, but I do honestly feel that. But me, when I was standing on the start line of Kendinaville on that, I was like, oh, yeah, there's some gains to be had here. And I feel like I've gotten most of them. And it didn't fall apart on the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's... we can't gloss over that fact. I still don't know if the person who's considering buying the $18,000 S5 is also considering the Tavelo.
Oh, no, they would not way.
I think they are.
I'm not trying to make that, I'm not trying to make that comparison because most people don't want to buy a bike frame on the internet. It's just a niche thing anyway. Who wants to do that? Most people just want to go and buy it from the shop. So it is kind of a pointless argument anyway, because how many people are actually doing it unless your shop decides to start stocking cheap or better value frame-only things anyway? Like,
who do you think's more righteous? Is it the person, the Jesse Coyle buying the cheap bike and still getting really good performance out of it?
Cheaper
bike and getting the more performance out of it, or is it the?
I don't feel like the person in my situation is righteous at all. Like, I'm not looking at someone with an SL8 going, that costs twice as much. Like,
YouTube comments would disagree.
You reckon?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you just look at any bike review of a premium bike, and it will all be that. Oh, this is overpriced crap. You can get half of the same bike for half this price from insert brand here. I don't know.
But that's kind of... But you've also then gone and bought a frame. You've saved money, but you've also gone through a lot more hassle. And it's more like you might be a bit self-righteous at the industry where you don't feel like the packages are worth it. But I don't think that's like a personal. Yeah, I don't think that's a. I don't get that. Because I look at someone that's just gone to the shop and bought an SL8 and hasn't gone through the fuck around that I have to build it. And you go, okay, like, you spent $5,000 more, but you didn't have to order a frame from China. Like, there's pros and cons.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not, you're right.
And the person that was probably going down my option anyway didn't just decide not to spend $10,000 more to get an S5. It was just probably wasn't an option to begin with. So,
Yes, that's what. I would be more interested in you riding my bike than having me ride your bike.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's a shame. Yeah. It's a shame we don't ride the same size bike.
Yeah. Watch this space. Watch this space. I would like to do the Chinese build at some point. Yeah, definitely. What would you like to see from a new S5? Because this is 2020. When was the most recent one? They did They did that.
Oh, but then
with the 20,
barely anything. They redesigned the fork.
Yeah, that was. I'm going to say 2021.
Yeah.
So next year will be 2025. Yeah, new S5.
New S5.
New S5.
What do we want from a new S5?
I want them. I think they've got the market at their doorstep.
Yeah.
They could just. It could be over if they do the right thing here.
Okay.
Because all the big boys have dropped out of this space.
Yep.
Okay, Trek, Specialized, they're out.
Go on.
So we're up against Scott's.
Cannondale's gone.
Cannondale's gone. They're out. So you can just plant your flag on it now. So I reckon it's full spaceship. I want an absolute spaceship. I don't want to care. Weight, not an issue for me. Premium build, 7.5, fine. No issues. Perfectly fine. I just want I want a friggin' America's Cup boat.
Yeah.
Foils. Give me everything.
Yep. You want more chunked out.
I want that front head tube. I want that front head tube to be so deep, you need to bloody get a friggin' license from some sort of NASA to in orbit. I don't know. I just want a huge dinner plate up there. Yeah, full spec on it.
They would be insane.
I want narrower handlebars.
Yes. Yep.
That's the only practicality I want. Apart from that, spaceship.
They would be insane to slim that down.
If they go the one bike to do it all, it's an emergency pod. It's a full emergency. If they R5 S5 and they call it like the Rus 5.
Yep.
No, that's
over my dead body. He slimmed down my S5.
Not happening, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. I think they can do some little practical nods like they're all doing, where they put the through axle covers on and do that little trid bit. That's nice.
Yep, make that flush.
I don't want to see aero bottles. I think aero bottles are overrated. Don't want to see it. Because there's going to be my frame's going to be so thick. It's like a bloody triathlon bike.
It needs more tire clearance.
Yes, but they're practical concerns, and I'm not too worried about practical concerns. Handlebars, narrower.
Do you like the big baguette holder?
Oh yeah, bigger.
Make it bigger.
Make it bigger. Yeah, something. I would like an aero optimized bike mount, not the crap thing that they 2-part thing that they send it out with. But yeah, I just want a big chunked out boy. Yeah, full spec. And I love on the S5 that fork, how the top of the fork just like molds into the frame through there. I'd like to see that sort of, just in there. Want more.
It's a bit that could do with some cleaning up. I don't want that more than a credit card thickness. Get that all tidied up in there.
I kind of like the look of it.
No,
it looks like a spoiler.
No, I want that all cleaned up. Clean that all up. No, but I'm with you. Chunk it out.
Bigger bottom bracket. Just a big oil tanker down there. But because it is. This is their market to just absolutely dominate now. I don't want to worry about anything wider than plus or minus 5 your angle.
Yep.
Everything just straight on the nose. I want full nose.
It'll be done. I mean, you won't see another bike at a Masters race.
No, done.
2026. Yeah. It's if they do that.
Any other predictions? I'm going to make a call. Trek release a new bike next year. A new model.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I reckon. Well, maybe it'll be the Demane, but fully reshaped in a bit like the Ribble all road thing.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to move the aero space into the all road spec bike. That Demane, remember Demane Spartacus edition one, like sick looking bike. I reckon they go all in and chase that rider for me. Because that's the Trek rider. Kind of bigger guy, you know, bit of power, bit of big ass on him. Just churning out waddies. I'm not joking, Cervelo. Don't you dare do it. All right? Good. Any other predictions? UAE to get off Colnago 2026?
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
I was actually just looking. When's Colnago due? They only released that V4S like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Fuck, we're going to have to wait a while.
Yeah.
I reckon Merida going to update the Reacto, and it's going to be, it'll be like the Dare. I reckon they're going to come in and go, yep, we're fighting with Cervelo. Yep. Come on. Please, give us something.
Right, a few little YouTube bits and pieces then while I've got you, because we said we might mention a few. I'm going to start by, now we're heading into the off-season in the Northern Hemisphere, so a few less NorCal videos probably popping up. And I've got a suggestion, if you're a fan of NorCal cycling, hit up a Melbourne Bubble Boy, the Fresh Crits YouTube channel. I'll link his stuff down below. He's basically a Melbourne crit racer, very similar kind of metrics and look, but he's got his own little style to them. Some of your classics down there, Jesse, your Sandowns.
Oh, okay.
All these sort of ones. It's a good little entertaining watch. He's got the front and rear camera. Sometimes brings in a few little special guest Melbourne people to talk them through. So I'm happy if you want to jump on the trainer and watch some crits, jump on the Fresh Crits himself. Also, of note, so our friend who we've both met, the cycling tattooist, he has changed his YouTube name and he's gone for his own name, Tommy Martinez. But more interestingly enough, he moved to Portugal. Well, I don't know if when we talked about this last, whether he decided to permanently move to Portugal or not, I'm not 100% sure, but he has moved permanently and he is now organising sort of like bike tours, like ride weeks and things that he'll chaperone and show you around Portugal. So if you're at the end of a horrendous UK winter or end of a horrendous UK summer, you can pop down to see Tommy and he might throw you in a video and all do the rest of it. So I'll drop a link to his stuff down below because we've sort of stayed in contact a little bit with himself. So hopefully that's a big undertaking, I reckon, going the full bike tour angle. I know that's probably not something that would desperately interest yourself to do, but yeah, he's ripping in. Yeah, also wanted to mention a young Aussie guy, I think he's in WA. So he just did an algorithm doing algorithm things through he did a Canyon Aeroad review or first ride review type thing. And I kind of thought it was interesting because he's a young junior cyclist here in Australia and he was kind of breaking down. So he was saying that he was choosing between the Canyon, the Madone, the SL8, like, you know, good bikes. And the most important feature for him was because the Canyon Aeroad has this clip-on bar setup with the new Canyon Aeroad has that, what do they call it? Like the extension bar or I can't remember exactly what the terminology for it was. But so there are regulations then around what a junior can run in a time trial. Is that right, Jesse? Okay. All right. So, yeah, essentially broke it down that the value that he was getting for this bike for a guy trying to race at a junior elite level, the fact that this bike has this extra feature on top of the fact that it's fast and relatively affordable compared to the other ones. I don't know. I just kind of thought that was interesting because I do remember you referencing this when we initially talked about this bike. You saying that, no, this is good for juniors. Juniors will be able to run this as their time trial bike. So it was good to hear that play out. And yeah, anyway, Jordan Watkins Racing is the YouTube channel. All right, let's talk this through, Jesse.
Yeah.
So what am I talking about?
Talk what through?
We'll talk what through. I wrote something. I wrote an article. Both you and I have been doing some articles for redbull.com, and I did one that was based around descending. I think it's titled Descending 5 Steps on How to Become a Better Downhill Cyclist. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I want to do is kind of talk through the steps that I put in here, see if any of it makes sense, and also whether any of it's actually valuable at all, whether you can read something and put that into practice at all. All right.
Okay, go through them. Teach me how to descend.
Okay. First one.
Yep.
Step 1, lower your center of gravity, Jesse.
Okay.
When descending, it is crucial to lower your center of gravity to give you added control. A lower center of gravity helps you stay balanced, especially when navigating corners. To get lower on the bike, you need to address your upper body position. Start by bending your elbows and bring your torso closer to the handlebars. The most effective way to do this on a drop bar road bike is to grip the lower section of the handlebars, known as the
drops,
or the lower side of the handlebar bends with your hands. This gives you a lower center of gravity and while still allowing easy access to your brakes. So we would agree that step 1, hold your drops, lower your torso.
Yep.
Okay, good. Then you need to distribute your weight correctly to ensure balance. So obviously, what do you do with your butt? What do you do with your back end? Okay? As you lower your upper body, you also shift your weight slightly back by sliding your hips towards the rear of the saddle. You can lift yourself off the saddle completely if you like. Now, I would argue that getting your butt off the saddle, and so your 4 contact points being your 2 hands and your 2 feet on your 2 pedals are really all you need when you're descending. Anytime you're sitting on the saddle, you're potentially in a position where you can just get bounced or bumped, and you've kind of lost that connection with the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
We're on board.
Yep.
We've got our position.
Yep.
Let's move on to braking.
Okay.
Proper braking is essential. Brake before the corner, not in it. Common mistake amongst beginners is braking while in the middle of the corner. This can lead to skidding or losing control of the bike. Instead, do most of your braking before you enter the corner.
Mm-hmm.
You would agree with that?
Up until the point where you feel like you're going too fast and need to brake.
So,
in the corner.
Let's address that now.
Okay.
You're in the corner. You feel like you're going too fast.
Mm-hmm.
You want to hit your brakes.
Mm-hmm.
Can you do that? Is there a way to do that?
Straighten up so you're not come off your line a little bit out of the apex, more towards the exit of the corner so you can brake a little bit without being on the limit of the tires, then tip yourself back into the corner. Because the solution isn't just don't brake, take the corner at a speed you're not comfortable with and don't really have control, and just pray that you make it the exit without going off the guardrails. So if you need to brake in a corner, I think you should brake. Not brake because someone said you should brake before the corner. Well, that's little good when you've gone into the corner too fast.
Yeah.
So yeah, but you can't just keep turning the corner like you would have and then brake because you'll lose grip. You have to come a little bit more upright. I mean, this is all happening in like split seconds. Maybe go towards the exit of the corner, brake, and then you continue on your line. What do you think?
Yeah, look.
I do it all the time. I brake in corners all the time. I go, fuck, I don't want to take this corner at this speed. All right, set it up, touch the brakes, and back we go.
What you said there, sit it up. And that's important to say because it's not like you can be leaning into your corner, trying to carve the turn and then realize I'm going too fast, grab a buttload of brakes. That will see you on the deck very quickly.
Yes.
And so, yes, you are right that recenter yourself, so try and bring yourself back up, almost start riding towards the wall, like, come off your line and take some brake. I agree with that. Now, that sort of brings me on to my second point, that modulating your brakes. So both your front and rear brakes, your front brake provides the most stopping power, but is more aggressive. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Your rear brake is more gradual. So when you're talking about braking in the corner as a quote unquote emergency, should you be using your front brake, your rear brake, or both of them?
I use both.
Yeah.
Depends how fast you need it, how much speed you need to scrub off. There's not much. Generally, if you're going to slide out on a descent, your front wheel's going to slide out, so you'd want to use more rear brake. Because if you're going to lose grip on one of the tires, it'll be the front. So I try to use more rear brake if you can.
I agree. I think you would. This is one of the things that a disc brake bike is amazing at, because you can really gather exactly how much brake you're going to be taking in each hand, especially when it's a rough descent. Most of our descents are on pretty rough as guts descents. So you're bouncing around, and being able to actually get the right amount is absolutely perfect. I would argue you're right. Taking that little bit more of what is my right hand, the rear brake, is the ideal thing to do in that scenario. But try and avoid braking in the corner at all. It's really, once you know a descent, you really shouldn't be braking in a corner.
Yep.
All right, let's actually talk about the cornering itself. For me, this is the most important part.
I wonder if there's one descending trick for me that I need. I wonder if you're going to bring it up. Keep going.
Well, it's looking through the corner.
Okay, it is. Yeah, that is literally, that's it. That's cornering.
I'm going to read my actual article here. Look through the corner. If you have one takeaway from this article, I recommend that this be the one. Your bike tends to follow where your eyes go, so it is essential to look ahead through the corner rather than focus directly on your front wheel. This technique allows you to anticipate the road ahead and plan your line through the turn. I would argue looking where you want to go is just a rule for cycling, basically.
Well, it applies in crits and anything.
It applies for life. It applies in skiing. If you're skiing through the trees, you don't look at the tree. You look at the gap between the two trees, because that's where you want to go. And this is really important. So this will require you to try and visualize where you want to go through the corner. It's quite a difficult thing to learn, because you are taking your eyes off what the immediate issues are.
Your brain tells you to look at the tarmac in front generally. That's you. Most people look 5 meters ahead. Like, that's, your eye just wants to. You have to force it up. No, stop looking down. Stop looking down. Look at the exit. Yeah.
And what it does mechanically is it just puts your body in a far better position when it comes to actually the weight distribution on the bike. So yeah, look through the corner.
Especially as you go, I mean, it is so, I found myself talking myself through this exact same thing, going down the descent at Amy's. Speed's picking up. I'm in the pack. I'm like, just look at the exit of the corner. Look at the rider that's exiting ahead. Like, it has to be forced every single corner, especially as the speed picks up. Because as soon as you start taking corners at 60k an hour, and you start looking down, you go, "Oh, there's a bit of sand there." Oh, you could very easily lose it. Like, it's hard to even explain how important that point is.
My kryptonite when descending is just descending around other people, because I lose my one cardinal rule. I stop looking at where I want to go, and I start looking at other people, because I become so concerned about what they're doing, especially like someone dive bombing you up the inside. Just takes your attention off it. I'm a way better descender solo than with lots of other people that I don't trust around. But yeah, you're right. You just got to keep reminding yourself of that. All right, so we're looking through corners. Lean the bike, not your body. You do see a lot of people get this wrong, because they think they're riding motorbikes. So cycling is not motorsport. Don't try to emulate MotoGP riders and their cornering position. Unlike our bicycles, their motorbikes are the larger weight in the corner. In road biking, the cyclist is heavier. When cornering, it's crucial to lean the bike into the turn while keeping your body relatively stable. This technique maximizes the tire's grip on the road and gives the rider more control in the corner. If you lean your body too much, you can reduce the contact point of the tire with the road, increasing the risk and losing traction, and therefore causing a crash. So ultimately, this is just trying to keep your body as centered as possible. One trick I can potentially offer around this is just with your hips. So for example, if you are taking a right-hand turn, so if you're coming around a right-hand turn, is to try and imagine your left hip, try and kick your left hip up as you're coming through the turn, because it will sort of centralize your weight more than centralize your weight, basically, is what it will try and do. And if you can match that, or you can combine that with the third step, which is keeping your outside foot down. Okay? This one just explains itself. The more you do this, the more you can drive through that outside foot, the more you can carve through a turn. Step 4, stay relaxed and confident. Descending can be intimidating, but staying relaxed and confident is the key to improving your skills. Loosen your grip. It's natural to want to grip the handlebars tightly when descending, especially at high speeds. However, a tight grip can lead to fatigue and reduces your ability to make fine adjustments. Instead, keep your grip firm but relaxed. This allows you to respond quickly and smoothly to any changes in the road. How tightly can you be gripping a handlebar down a descent? I mean, again, especially when you're dealing with really rough descents, how important having loose grip is, because if you are completely death gripping your descents and you do hit a pretty nasty bump, that stiffness, you're potentially going to just take it further, take it worse, and lose balance, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Don't listen to music on downhills. Do you do that? No? All right, fair enough. And practice. We've said this in the past, but if you're doing hill reps, try and view it as descent reps as well. Practicing corners, practicing a left, practicing a right.
Mm-hmm. Most people don't do that. That is important. Train it. That is true. I think there's three camps of people. There's really good experienced riders like yourself who just bomb descents, which is one thing. Then there's other people that clearly don't know how to descend and haven't practiced it and don't know what they're doing and are very nervous doing it and are very slow descending. And they're probably on the hoods and they scrub off all their speed going into every corner. And it's probably a part of cycling they dread every time on every ride is, we're going to go down a descent again. So for those people, I feel sorry for you. And I think something they need to improve. I'm in like a weird middle ground, third bucket, where I can descend faster, but when I go on a ride with you, I see you go down a descent, I'm like, even if I could follow you down, which I think I probably could, if it was a closed road and someone had cleaned the road beforehand, I reckon I could follow you. But I still think you take way too much risk descending. I mean, all it's going to take is some ute in a truck coming up too far over, throws you off your line, or some oil spill thing, which you're just going to have to, you're sending these corners, you don't have time to scrub off your speed if it's there, and you're just going to go over it and just pray you don't slide out. I think you descend too fast.
I think you're overselling me a bit, but I think you descend too slow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean,
but I purposefully descend slow. Like I'm on. If I kind of said like 10 being, I'm like on the edge of this corner, not sure if I'm going to get through. I purposefully don't go above about for me, what I feel is like a 4 in terms of like what I feel like I have grip on the tire.
I don't disagree with you about the traffic thing, but in terms of the cornering thing, I don't think I go near a 7. Like there's very few corners. I know there's a couple of corners I know that I will fully just carve because I know every little inch of it, but they're very few and far between. I completely agree with you about the ute thing, totally. And my one thing that I will say, if I'm going down a descent and I see cyclists coming the other way up, I will always back off my speed just because the one thing that frightens, and this happened at Peaks the day before Peaks last year, is it's that one car that got stuck behind 3 or 4 cyclists coming the other way, and then he decides to come around onto the wrong side of the road. Next minute, Miller's coming around a left-hand bend and he's on my side of the road. So yes, as soon as I see cyclists on the other side of the road, I'll start to back off it. The oil in the middle of the road thing, I mean, geez, yeah, maybe. But, I mean, I see you slide through gaps of cars and cyclists in Centennial Park and it only takes them to open their door and you're going catapulting over them. So I don't know if that's fair.
I've never crashed in my life in Centennial Park.
No. No, that's true. I have. But yeah, I don't disagree with you. I didn't bring this up just to rip you, but I would argue
But I'll take, my descending is, I'm not going to say it's slow because, I mean, I still pass people like I'm a pro going down a descent. Like, but relative to you, I'm slow as. Like, you're waiting for me at the bottom of the descents.
I think the way you descend right now is fine. I think you're another year away from being dangerously too cautious, where it starts to really get inside your head and you start backing off way too much, taking too much break in corners, and because it should be fun, and I feel like we're not miles away from you being really just not enjoying it at all, and it being this like negative part of the ride, which it doesn't necessarily have to be.
Yeah, I don't enjoy descending. I'm not scared of it.
No.
But I don't look forward to a descent because it is a risk. I mean, the highest chance of me coming off my bike is on, well, traffic maybe. But I have so little traffic incidents. I don't really think that's an issue. It is, for me, it is the descent. It's just, get bumped off or. But you're right. You are right in the sense that there is a point where you end up going so slow that you stop having to look at the exit of the corner because you're not going fast enough where it matters. And so you kind of detrain your descending. And I feel like that sometimes, like at Amy's on like the last descent, stuck with the group fine, but I'm like, to stick with them, I'm having to bring up skills that I haven't had to rely on because my descending is so cautious. And so yeah, I'm not as good at speed now as I was before. Thankfully, I don't really do descent races with important descents in them, so it doesn't impact me. But you're right. Like if I decided to do an NRS, but that doesn't exist anymore. If I decided I was going to be a UCI racer next year and I'd have to race the descents, or that'd be fucking dangerous. I'm not very good at it at speed. So it just depends on what you want to.
Yeah.
I'd have to go and start pushing my boundaries a bit more.
I mean, I'm not coming at it from the perspective of, if you get back to elite racing, you need to start stepping up your descending. And again, I didn't bring this up to just shit on you for your descending. I merely am just saying that I think we're not far away from you being in a position that you're not enjoying. It's a fun thing to do. It shouldn't be like you might as well ride a track bike or something. Like it's a skill that's fun to learn and challenge yourself, and it doesn't have to be super, super dangerous. It just.
But I would say, this is my point. We go for a Nakuna Bay ride. We go down Nakuna Bay steep side. You are taking more risk than me. If there's gravel across the if there's a gravel across the road, if a car comes the other way, if a kangaroo jumps out, if any
I'm going faster than you.
You're going faster than me. You've got less reaction time.
Yes.
You can't correct if you're in a corner as much because
that's not the case. I don't think there's any corner there that I couldn't correct myself out of. Yes, there's certainly. If there's a circumstance like a kangaroo, 100%. Like I am far more in danger of that. But yeah,
it's just not a part but it's not my goal it's not my goal to enjoy the descending more by going faster and getting a bit of a buzz. Oh, I'm railing the corners. Look at me. Woo-hoo. I've got a bit of a send on here. Well, yeah, because you're going faster.
Yeah, but you need to as far as I want reviews of wheels and specs of bikes and lent and carved into corners, and does it point when it goes down the hill? Does it go where it's told to go and things like this? These are important metrics that I need feedback from.
That was more my point in that it's just not from the rides we do when we go out. You're probably in the top 1%. There's probably 3% of people that are kind of like me that could go maybe faster but just don't like the adrenaline rush of it. But 95% of the people that should probably read that article don't really know how to descend faster. So we're having a totally niche conversation anyway, because most people literally any faster, they just ride off the edge because they don't really even know how to take a corner. So yes, I agree.
The level of descending that I witnessed on the weekend at Amy's was pretty good. Like I was very, I was very cautious, frightened of what it was going to be like coming down that descent with what I thought was going to be lots and lots of people. But pretty much after the first K, everyone sort of slotted themselves into, right, I'm on your wheel, I'm on your wheel, I'm on your wheel. Let's go down. And, it was fast and flowy and aggressive, but there was one little dive bomber who popped up and we got him on camera. He'll be shouted out. But apart from that, that's all you can ask when it comes to these sort of events is the riders take it upon themselves to actually ride it correctly.
My group was fast. I was sitting at the back, so I didn't get dropped on the descent, but I was like, guys are giving it, like, we could go 10% slower and we'd all get down all right. Like, that's kind of what I mean is, yes. But
if you're going to take anything from this, descend in the drops and look through the corner. I mean, it's hilarious when you talk to mountain bike people about this and they're like, I wanted to see just where the edge of the grip was on these tires. I'm like, what? They're so comfortable with their tires moving, finding that grip. Where does it lose a bit of grip? I'm like, I don't want to be anywhere near that position. Are you kidding me? And so it's, you talk about me as like at a certain level of descending. That's like, then there's a whole other human who's got no brain. Sorry, mountain bikers, you're insane, but very impressive. All right, I'm going to be remote the next couple of weeks up in the Sunshine Coast, chopping off with the boys up there on World Champs rides around Noosa. But apart from that, Jesse, I will see you then.
Chat to you all next week.